Welcome to Web Development Lesson 6.7. In this video, we're going to continue our exploration of data that's available through NYC Open Data by looking at NYPD's arrest data set. To further our ability to be able to filter information, we're going to explore how to filter information on multiple criteria. So let's get to it. So as mentioned in a previous video, NYC Open Data is a great website to get information about various agencies in New York City. So NYPD makes their arrest data sets openly available. Through the API call, you can request the data that's available. So let's go ahead and do that. And the data comes up pretty quickly. So let's go ahead and copy that into a JSON online viewer, just to make it a little easier for us to look at. Let's go ahead and copy that over. You see that it has 1,000 entries. With most of them having 24, you do notice some of the entries have a little bit less keys. Also remember that from the NYC Open Data, if you scroll down a little bit, you could also get a snapshot of it in a kind of like a spreadsheet type format. I personally prefer to look at it like this because this to me feels a lot closer to what we're gonna have to do in programming. So let's go ahead and open up another one of these and just explore some of the things that are available to us. So you can see here there's a description about the particular crime. Actually, no, it's this one, the offense description, the borough that was where the arrest was made, the particular precinct, the sex of the perpetrator, as well as the race of the perpetrator, the relative age group. So again, a lot of good information that you can then kind of filter through and make your own analysis about arrests that are being made or crimes that are being committed, however you want to think about this. All right, so let's head on over to our, and because this was live data again, so let me go ahead and copy this. And I'm simply going to replace the data we have here. This was mentioned in a previous video. One of the things that I like to do as we're developing, as you're developing, is not necessarily always pull the live data from the website through the API call, but simply to store the data locally and then pull that information through that local data set. That way your process is a lot quicker. Even though the data that was pulled up from the NYPD arrest didn't take long, but in a previous video when we explored 311 complaints, that data actually took about 15 minutes, 15 seconds. If it took 15 minutes, we definitely wouldn't be using it. About 15 seconds for it to populate. And again, every time you're making a change, you don't have to wait 15 seconds to 30 seconds for the data to be retrieved in order to kind of continue on with your exploration of your program. So nothing new here. We have a couple of outputs to display the actual cards as well as to display the number of results, which are calculated simply by using an accumulator inside the for loop. Here you can see the generated cards, which includes the offense, the borough, the precinct, the sex of the perpetrator, the race of the perpetrator, and also the age group of the particular perpetrator of the crime. So now what we want to be able to do is to filter through this information. Now, in previous videos, we saw we could filter on one particular key within the JSON, but we want to be able to kind of combine things. So for instance, I might be interested in particular type of offenses in a particular borough. So we're going to search by borough and offense. So in order to do that, hopefully just the fact that I kind of emphasized a little bit, we're gonna have to use logical operators. And as we saw in a previous video, in order to filter information out, what we're using if statements. So let's go ahead and go over to our filter by borough and offense. You can see how I already retrieved the two values, one from the borough and one for the offenses. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the code from our init function that populates the original cards for all the offenses. I'm going to paste this in here. again, as we saw in previous video, the only thing we need to do now is simply add an if statement that decides whether this card meets our criteria. So let's go ahead and paste that in here. Let's bring this back up, clean up a little bit of the tabbing. All right, so let's say if our arrest, and what are we looking for first? Borough. And in this case, our key is arrest underscore borough equals the borough that the person typed in. And now the arrest, and what are we looking for? Offense, so that would be offense NS DSE equals the offense that was entered in through our drop-down box. Now I'm going to talk a little about the drop-down boxes, even though that's going to be outside the scope of this particular video. That's going to be left as a augmented video if you want to explore how you can populate boxes with drop-down boxes with particular data from your data set. All right, so let's go ahead and refresh this now that we have some code in there. Also notice I changed the title. So one of the things you want to be able to provide users, because again, users have to type this information in, it might be nice for them to have a drop-down box where this gets populated from the data. Instead of them having to figure out, okay, what are the possible offenses that I can search for? So let's look at burglary. And let's look for burglary in Queens. And let's see what we get. All right, so here we go. We got two offenses for those that type of offense in the borough of Queens. And if we want to change it to, let's say, Manhattan, we could do that. So we can see we have a lot more burglaries in Manhattan. Again, very simple. All we simply did was just take these two criteria and join them with an AND statement. So let's explore the other logical operator, which is the OR operator. So perhaps you want to be able to search for particular crimes by race or by age group. So let's go back to our JavaScript and let's copy that same code we just did for the borough and offense, copy it over to our race or age group. Now again, the only thing that really changes here is the if statement. So because we want race, let's do this. We're going to copy this one here. Replace the arrest borough with race and race here. And age group. Okay, age group actually happens to be age group. So we could do that here and do it here. So again, let's just take a quick look at what the if statement is saying. So if the race of the perpetrator for that particular data element that we're traversing through matches the race of what was entered in through the text box. Ooh, and this should be an OR. Sorry. Right? You got to be very careful with those copy and paste. It will bite you in the butt. Or if the arrest age group matches the age group that was specified through the drop-down box, then we're going to include that as part of our card. All right, so let's see how that turns out. All right, so perhaps let's say we want to look for, let's say, white Hispanic. And we'll do this age group, 18 to 24. And you can see here we had 376 results of crimes that were committed by either 18 to 24-year-olds or white Hispanics. So you can see here, this one matches the 18 to 24. This one matches the white Hispanic. So again, it's pulling all those various crimes that either meet one or the other criteria. All right, so let's go back to our presentation. Let's review what we've done. So in this video, we explored the NYPD's arrest data set, which is made available through the NYC Open Data web portal. The data was so massive that it was beneficial to filter for information, but we went a step further that we combined criteria that we were looking for. So for instance, we looked for particular offenses in their crime by borough. So that way we could see borough and offense. Another combination of multiple criteria was to see crimes that were committed either by a particular race or age group. And honestly, the number of filters provided on a data set isn't limited to just two. You could keep adding different filters based on the keys that are available in the data set. Again, it's really just left to you to get creative. So hopefully you're excited about really providing your users some meaningful data, and enjoy.